I'm on the internet. I'm on the internet.
Who's saying that? Can you guys hear that?
Yep.
Yep.
Screen's getting smaller and smaller all the time.
I'm on the internet.
Okay, we're back to the agenda.
Okay.
Should I start, Holly?
Just give me 1 second, Jane. I just
Okay, just tell me when.
Okay, I just want to go on my phone to make sure that the YouTube is streaming. Yep, it's live. So you can start whenever. Carla's trying to get in touch with Sandra. So
I'm going to go ahead.
Yep.
All right. This is the regular council meeting for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin on Wednesday, May 6, 2020 at 9:01. So I call the meeting to order at 9:01. I am going to do a roll call of council members, starting with Councillor Collins, Councillor Florent,
I'm here.
Councillor Harper,
Here,
Councillor Bongo,
I'm here.
Councillor Shala,
Present.
Councillor Vermeer.
Here.
All right, thank you. I have a resolution. Oh wait, the other thing, I'm sorry, I have assigned individuals to the first and second of resolutions. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Florent, seconded by Councillor Harper. Be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin adopts the agenda as circulated for the regular council meeting of May 6th, 2020. All in favor, if you could put your hands up, I can tell you've voted. And that's carried. Are there any additions or amendments to the agenda?
I would like an opportunity to talk about launches and beaches, but that may come up in Holly's report.
Okay, yes. Was it
Yeah.
someone else? Okay.
Yeah, Bongo here. I was wondering if we could add something about rescheduling the economic development meeting that was canceled.
yeah, that's in my report as well.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Great. And then I guess when we talk about boats and boat launches, are we also going to talk about just the messaging that we're going to give to seasonal owners?
We can, yes.
Okay, great. And the other thing too is maybe this is better for an economic development meeting, but in the official plan, I'd really like to see the word village be used to instead of the word hamlet to describe our settlement areas. So I don't know if that's something that is put on at another meeting. I know that it's more of a, I know it won't change really much, although from a branding perspective, I think if we're going to be using the word village, on the wayfinding signs and all that, for that to be consistent in the official plan, I think would be a good thing.
I think that needs to go to economic development meeting. I
Sure.
think that's a bit much to be added into an agenda at this point in time, but thank you. We will put it on the agenda for economic development.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. I see I got ahead of myself in the agenda, but we've already adopted the agenda, and we will put in as with the amendments as well. So with that, we're on item number 4 of the agenda.
No, hang on.
I'm sorry, Joe.
That's
Oh, I didn't
okay.
hear
I've been approached. I don't know if we want this under new business or not, but I've been approached by the Lake Association here and regarding fire protection, fire services on the lake, the portable pumps that are on the lake. And we're wondering if it's possible for the fire department to look at taking over the maintenance of those pumps. We'd like a discussion on that to see if this would be feasible, similar to the AED that was used by and maintained by the association. We just want a discussion about that to see if we can move forward on that with feasibility.
that also needs to go to another meeting. That's too
Okay.
broad to into this meeting at this point in time, but thank you for bringing it up. And Holly has noted your request, and we will get back to that at a committee meeting.
Perfect.
All right, thank you. Okay, so going forward with the business before us this morning, does any member of council wish to disclose a pecuniary interest? None noted. We do have a delegation this morning from Tiffany Giacato, who is our representative from KPMG, and she will be making the presentation of the 2019 financial audit.
So Holly, I'm good to share my screen now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just
Sorry.
wanted to note to everyone, I see Sandra is on now. Sandra, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear. I'm not sure if you can see me though.
We
No.
can't.
I'm
There's-
having to join in with my phone. My iPad's playing up for some reason.
Okay.
Before I go any further, can I just confirm that you can see the presentation?
I can
It's
see it quite well.
all good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good to go.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. And thank you so much, everyone, for the opportunity to come today to present the 2019 audited financial results and the findings. So what we've done is we've put together a presentation with the highlights of changes year over year, as well as some additional information on our audit approach, as well as some benchmarking, which is typically what we do using the publicly available information from the financial information returns. So we'll get to that in just a second. So apologies here for the small print. I know probably coming through on the screen, it's a bit tiny. You should know that this is these pages are just extracted from the first three pages of the draft financial statements that you would have a copy of as well. So this is the auditor's report. So the auditor's report is the responsibility of us as auditors to issue on the financial statements. Financial statements being those developed by management based on the financial results for the year. So as a council, what you would be interested in terms of the paragraphs, the very first paragraph is the opinion paragraph, and the opinion paragraph indicates in this situation that the financial statements are prepared in accordance with the public sector accounting standards, which would be applicable for municipalities. And as a result of the audit work that we've done, we are proposing to issue what you call a clean or an unqualified audit opinion. And that really is what you would be looking at when you're issuing a set of financial statements. If I just quickly flip to the next screen, I just want to highlight a few things. So this new auditor's report has been around for 2 years now. You would have seen it on a set of financial statements that you would have been looking at from December 2018 onwards. We have one new paragraph that's sitting in the auditor's report this year. And the only reason for that is it's our first year as auditors of the township. So as a result, there's a paragraph that we need to include that effectively just says that the comparative figures were signed off on by another auditor. We're not saying that we were, adjusting any of those results or anything like that. It's just a required paragraph in the auditor's report. You'll remember that an audit is the highest level of assurance that is available under the Canadian auditing standards. And for your purposes, we also like to let you know what we would have used for materiality. So given the focus on operating expenses, typically by users of the town's financial statements, we set our materiality using expenses as a benchmark. And the posting threshold means everything that is over $4,800. Any adjustment that we would have found via doing our audit work, we would have brought to both Jen and Holly's attention, discussed it to see what we would do. As management, they have the choice to either post or not post any statements or adjustments, and I can tell you that all of our adjustments were worked through with management. Everything was corrected, so there's nothing that we would say would be hanging out there. Other thing to note is these statements are draft until council approves them in the meeting today. So that's why you don't see them formally signed off in the auditor's report, but we'll send that final report along just after the meeting once we get the approval. The next page here is the statement of management's responsibility. This is only a statement that you see in the municipal space. So the public sector accounting standards require a sign off by management that effectively speaks to the processes, controls that are in place in order to ensure that the financial reporting is appropriate for the township. And then thus this would be included within the finalized financial statements and signed off. So nothing out of the ordinary to note there. So from an audit perspective, we just want to give you a bit of an highlights on the areas that we focused on. So the main areas of focus are on revenues and accounts receivable, disbursements being your operating expenses along with accounts payable, payroll, and then capital. We do documentation or look at documentation for each of those processes. We also then complete our audit approach primarily using a substantive approach. So that means things like obtaining confirmations from your funding sources, performing analytical procedures to build up taxation revenue balances, vouching capital additions to invoices. So really building up those account balances by looking at a sample and supporting documentation to do so. We do, however, given the importance of these two areas being disbursements and payroll, do some control testing, and we do that to ensure that the internal controls are appropriately in place. The last thing to note is there are some estimates in your financial statements. So the obligation associated with the landfill, we call that an estimate because it is based on assumptions and based on things that are going to happen upon closure of the landfill. So that's obviously quite a number of years out. So we require estimates in order to come up with these figures. We do kind of a comparison to determine reasonability with other estimates that we would see just to ensure they would be appropriate. So the first page that I have here is the statement of financial position. So if you think about what this is, so we're going back in time about 4 months, and this is just a snapshot. The assets that are owned, the liabilities that are owed as of a point in time. So that would be as of the year-end date. So just a few highlights I wanted to go through, and by all means, if there's any questions, please do let me know. I'll stop at the end of each slide now that we're going through the numbers and just ask if anybody has any questions, and we can go over anything at that point. So number one, you see cash and cash equivalents. So that number is up fairly significantly over the prior year, and the reason for that is in the current year there is a surplus and also what we would call changes in working capital balances. So you'll notice, just a few lines down, accounts receivable is down year over year. You'll notice in the financial liability section, accounts payable is up year over year. We call those timing changes. Just depends on when you're going to run your check run at the end of the year, or depends on when you're going to collect your accounts receivable in the year. But those changes, when they're either paid or the cash is received, all impacts your cash balances. So those changes in those balances did cause there to be a positive or increase in the cash balance. What's good to see about that is you can see that from your cash flow from operating activities in the year, you were able to fully fund your capital asset purchases. So that's via, any of the grants that you would have received in the current year. So I always will say to councils, you need to remember that if you don't have sufficient operating cash flow, you're going to debt to fund your capital purchases. And it's, a pretty positive financial statement that we're seeing for the Township of South Algonquin, that, the very small amount of long-term debt was repaid in the current year. On taxes and user charges receivable, not a whole lot of change there. On the next slide, we'll go through the makeup of the taxation and user charges so that you can see the how those are made up. Accounts receivable is down year over year. Main reason for that is outstanding at the end of the prior year was a grant, so the OSIF top-up dollars. It was about just over 300,000. That amount was received in early 2019. So given that it was outstanding at the end of the prior year, that's why we were seeing that balance a bit higher at that point. The other thing is the HST receivable last year was fairly high. So the way we look at this is we say, okay, if there would have been a lot of purchases or capital purchases very close to the end of the prior year, we would have seen that increase in the HST receivable. So again, that's just timing based on what's going on in the previous year. So those are the two items that combine to have that decreased accounts receivable balance. Accounts payable is up a bit year over year. Main reason for that is, again, just timing. The excavator purchase was done very close to year end, so that amount just wasn't paid until just into the new year. Deferred revenue, so slightly up year over year, about 151,000 in total at the end of December. That's primarily your federal gas tax dollars that are unspent. So about 147,000 of the 151 is unused gas tax dollars, and they're allowed to be carried forward to the subsequent year and used on eligible capital expenditures at that time. The landfill closure and post-closure. So we do see a decrease in that balance. So you'll remember a few slides ago, I had indicated that this is based on estimates. One of the big changes in the year was the change in what we would call the expanded capacity of one of the sites. And when the capacity is increasing, that means that there's going to be a longer period of time that the site can be used. So as a result, the obligation is really driven by how much capacity is used in the landfill. So because it was an expanded capacity, that obligation was reduced. The other thing to note is, I know we all appreciate it right now, there's a lot going on in the markets, a lot going on with respect to interest rates. And given that you don't have any municipal debt, we have to go to external sources to have a good clear picture on what the rate is to use for that obligation. So changes in the discount rate and inflationary rate were also two factors for the decrease. So I don't think we should be expecting that on an ongoing basis, but just wanted to give you a little bit of background on why the change had existed in the current year. Are there any questions so far on the statement of financial position? Okay, I'll assume silence is golden, so we'll keep on going.
Tiffany, can I just ask you, can you just expand the presentation to from 72% to 100 just to see if it comes a bit clearer?
Is that better?
I think it's better for me. I don't know if it's better.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, that's perfect. We'll keep it like that then. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So the next slide, I'd just like to give always an idea of what's happening with taxes and user charges receivable. It's always very interesting to sit there and say, let's take a look at this in comparison to what the total revenue figures are. And the higher those percentages are, the more concerns there are with respect to collectability. So just for reference purposes, I have about 13 municipal clients that I work with across the province, all over various locations. I would tell you that the percentage of the receivables to levy, what I see ranges typically from about, I would say 5% to 15%. 15% obviously being on the higher end of things, and that's where you start to get a little bit concerned from a collectability perspective. But where we're seeing your taxation, receivables as a percentage of your levy is definitely on the lower end of the range. I should also let you know that one of our procedures that we do as part of our audit is to assess collectability. We sit there and say, okay, these tax receivable, these user charge receivable balances have been outstanding for say 2 years now. And let's go and take the receivables that we have and compare it to what the assessed value of the home is. Is there sufficient room if you were to register that home and have a tax sale to cover off the amounts that would be owing from that resident? And we should let you know that what you're seeing here is no allowance. So that means that when looking at your receivables, we didn't deem there to be any exposure at this point in time that would require any additional allowances or things to note like that with your receivable balances. So this is a pretty, pretty strong financial position when I compare to other municipalities in the province. Okay. So the next slide really does go over just speaking a little bit about capital. So you'll see capital assets were, if you look just down at the bottom of the slide under non-financial assets, tangible capital was 8.5 million in the prior year and is 8.7 at the end of the current year. So that means that the capital assets you purchased exceeded the amortization expense for the current year. So about $769,000 of purchases offset by depreciation of just under 550,000. Now, I know as council, you're likely very aware of all the capital work that went on in the township in the year, but nonetheless, it could have been, almost 18 months ago at this point that you were approving it. So always good to have a look at what you spent on capital. So the excavator and some of the attachments was the main purchase. Looking at some roads from a paving perspective, second highest. Some roofing replacements, 2 trucks, playground structures, drilling costs, and then just some immaterial, what we would call miscellaneous smaller additions that summarized to about 292,000. So that was mainly what was spent on capital in 2019. So we were just previously speaking about the kind of the snapshot, the financial position of the township. Now we're looking at the statement of operations. So these would be all of your revenues and all your expenses for a 12-month period. So from January 1st of 2019 to December 31st of 2019. Now, before we go too far in this part of the presentation, I just want to highlight one quick thing. So when we are required to do the audit on an annual basis, following public sector accounting standards requires us to follow the rules of the accounting handbook for that the township would be required to apply. That means, however, that certain things that you would have seen as an expense throughout the year when you would have been going through your financial reports are going to look a bit different on this statement. And the reason I say that is municipalities, when they're going through the year, have capital as an expenditure. And the reason for that is because there's typically grants that are received to offset those expenditures. The PSAB rules say, okay, well, those assets have a future economic benefit, so they shouldn't be expensed. So we have to take those expenses and put them in an asset account. So you'll remember the previous slide, we just went over what you spent on capital asset additions in the year. I just tell you that before we start to go through the numbers, because you'll see that the surplus says 833,000 for the year. And I'll just caution you for a second to wait for a few slides. We're going to go over what the true surplus is for the year, because a portion of that surplus has already been spent on your capital purchases. So on occasion, there can be a bit of a disconnect, because sometimes, I've spoke to councils and they'll say, this fantastic, we have 833,000 that we can use to go forward. And I say, okay, just pause for 1 second and wait for a few slides, and we'll see where the actual surplus is for the year. And I know that's something that I probably get the most questions on when we're going through the financial statements once we have the audited financial statements done. So first of all, revenue. So revenue in the current year is about 4.2 million compared to just over 5 million in the previous year. So, property taxes and user fees, they're pretty consistent on a year-over-year basis. A slight increase in property taxes based on a slight increase in taxation rates and a slight increase in assessed values of properties. The main reason for the drop that we are seeing in total revenue is grants. So in the prior year, in 2018, there was some OSIF top-up dollars of about 1.3 million that was received. And that was a one-time top-up in 2018 that didn't repeat in 2019. That decrease of 1.3 million was offset by some additional grants that were received in the current year. So there was the modernization funding that was received, that was a very nice bonus to a lot of municipalities, because it was the one time that the government gave the money without saying, thou must spend this on a particular project or a particular purpose. So that is a main driver of the surplus in the current year. There was some additional Main Street revitalization funding that was received. Additional gas tax dollars were used on capital purchases in the current year, and a small increase in the OMPF funding as well. So those increases were netted against the reduced OSIF top-up. So we were seeing about an $830,000 decrease in grants in the year. Other revenue, so other revenue is down. Other revenue includes a number of accounts, but the main reason why the decrease, why you're seeing the decrease, is in the prior year, there were tax sales that had a revenue of about $110,000 to the township, and some dispositions of capital assets of about $60,000 in the year. So those were those types of disposals and sales didn't repeat in 2019. So that's why we're seeing the decrease there. Any questions on the revenue decline? Okay. All right, we'll keep on going then. The last component of this statement would be the operating expenditures. So you'll see 3.26 million of operating expenses in the prior year, compared with 3.38 million in the current year. You know, there's some smaller increases and decreases, but when we looked at what the kind of main increases, say over $10,000 in the year were, so first of all, in the recreation and culture expenditures, there was a project-related grant that was received, so as a result, when it's project-related grants, there's always project-related expenses. So it was up about 21,000 or so. And I believe when we were speaking with Holly and Jennifer, that was relating to Game On. And then just if we look at in general government, just a slight increase in council expenditures, just as a result of additional special meetings and honorariums, so about 12,000. The other increases were all smaller account balance increases, nothing really significant to note on a year-over-year basis. But the next slide, I kind of like to look at the trends. So the previous slide went over the expenditures at the department level. This slide goes over what's happening with your wages and benefits and your operating expenses. Now, I'll let you know that in a number of years, we're going to be able to further break down the operating expenses. And what we typically see is operating expenses being broken down into materials, contracted services, and external transfers. And once we get through next year's, we'll have enough periods of comparators to get that a bit more granular, and that'll help to provide some additional information. But what you're seeing here in these results is, to be honest, over the last 2 years, some pretty consistent spending on wages and benefits. You know, a lot of the changes in the revenue were relating to capital. So it makes sense that the wages and benefits and operating expenses are staying relatively consistent. And because so much capital funding was received for capital asset purchases, that's why you see the spike in the amortization expense in the year. Because in the more capital that's purchased in, say, 2017 and 18 and then put into use, you're going to see a corresponding increase in the amortization expense in 2019. But just remember, amortization expense, it's a non-cash expense. We're just smoothing the use of those assets over their useful life. Now, this is the slide I like to spend some time focusing on. So what we're trying to do is say, okay, so this is the surplus that we had per the financial statements, but how does that translate to what you as council would have approved as part of the budget process? So what we do is we take the surplus and we remove or back out everything capital related. So we add back the amortization expense, which is a non-cash expense. We reduce the capital asset additions because those were funded by your surplus dollars, your grants in the year. And then we remove your debt payments. So what this translates to is a total surplus of just over 500,000. So what you need to remember in the current year was 397,000 was received for modernization funding in early 2019. That was a one-time grant with no stipulations, so the revenue was allowed to be recognized. Without that grant, that one-time grant, would have been sitting more closer to a $100,000 surplus in the year. So I make the comment just to say I don't think it would be reasonable to, short of any additional non-restricted grants coming in, there would have to be significant changes in other revenue line items or significant reductions in expenses to see a surplus such as this again in the coming year. And I'll be honest, this is probably the fourth council presentation I've done in the last week and a half. Most municipalities were seeing this exact situation in the year, and most had done exactly what you had done. Took the funds, parked it away and in a reserve, just to be able to figure out, what to use it on in the coming year. The next statement is only applicable to PSAB or municipal clients. It's called the net change in financial assets. So what it does is it looks at changes in your capital and then translates that to your net financial asset position. Again, the township is in a strong financial position given the fact that there's no debt that has been taken on at this point in time. So that's the good news is you're in a net financial asset situation that's indicating, that you've been able to utilize operating surplus dollars to invest back into the town. And then just another reminder here, when you see the tangible capital asset purchases, just another reminder of exactly what that was spent on in the year. I always like to bring up this note. It's one of the key notes in the financial statements that goes over, what makes up your accumulated surplus. So just a few things to note. So number one, of the 10.8 million of accumulated surplus dollars, 8.7 of that has already been spent. And I say that because it's been invested in the capital assets of the township. So if we exclude that, you then have the $1.2 million in the general fund. So these are just general accumulated surplus dollars from over the years. You have the landfill closure costs. They're in a negative position because those amounts are going to be recovered or funded by future taxation revenue when those expenditures are going to be incurred whenever those landfills are closed in the future. And then, of course, there's the reserves that council has set aside for a specific purpose. The one item that I just wanted to highlight is that in the fire facilities and then transportation and equipment funds, there were some amounts that were transferred over into those reserve accounts in the year based on a resolution. I believe it was in December or so. So what you're seeing in this situation is the majority of the surplus dollars from the past year is sitting in the general fund and at the end of 2019. So in terms of our audit is complete at this point in time and our files are signed off. We just need council approval of the financial statements. And we also will be providing what we call the management representation letter to both Holly and Jen. Reason for that is it just is a letter that says, we gave you everything you needed to do the audit. We didn't hold anything, any information from you. It's a standard letter that's required for each of our audits. From our perspective, we need to develop an audit plan every time we go in to complete an audit. If issues are noted, that's where we would have to deviate from our audit plan, and we didn't have to. We were able to continue with our regular audit approach. We didn't have any disagreements on accounting treatment or anything like that with management. And as I mentioned previously, all audit adjustments have been recorded in the financial statements. Now, of course, one of the big topics on everybody's mind right now is COVID. Because we haven't issued the financial statements before the effects of COVID were felt all around, we would have had to just step back for a second and say, there's a checklist we put in our audit files that require us to say, is there any significant impact that we would need to look at in the financial statements? At this point in time, there really isn't enough information for us to know this. Could there be some property taxes that are not collected as a result of individuals, having permanent or temporary terminations from their jobs? perhaps, but this would be something that we would need additional information for. So, and because everything happened subsequent to year end, it wouldn't be appropriate to go and adjust any December figures for any potential effects of COVID. But I suppose just something to keep in mind with respect to the, aging of the receivable balances and things like that. The last part of the presentation, something that we like to do for our municipal clients, is a bit of benchmarking. So what we do is we just come up with a number of comparators. We make sure via discussions with management that the comparators that are utilized are appropriate and comparable. And I should just note one quick thing. So the calculations that you're going to see in the benchmarks, we rely on the financial information returns. This information is all publicly available, so we can go and extract it from the Ministry of Municipal Housing and Affairs website. The thing to note, however, is the FERS are not due. We would call it unofficially due until nearer to the end of May. So we don't have 2019 data right now to compare to. So we're a year behind right now. We're in 2018 for purposes of these comparatives, but nonetheless, it still does, paint a picture of where things are. So this is the only thing. It might be a bit tight to see on the screen like this. So this is expenses by category, so by your department. And one thing we tried to do, so I just want to caution you when you're reading the statement, the legend is reversed. So you'll see the lighter blue for environmental is actually the line that's just right down there on the bottom. So I apologize if it's a bit confusing. We tried our best to get that fixed, and we weren't having any luck. So I guess just an item to note, when you look at South Algonquin and compare to the other your other comparator municipalities, for the most part, a lot of the expenditures are pretty comparable. The one thing I just wanted to note is, the bottom line there for environmental, all of your changes that would be flowing through for things like landfill adjustments and things like that, that would flow through that environmental caption. So if there's been a significant number of changes to the obligation up or down, that would impact those expenses there. There's nothing really significant to note. Transportation on the top. One of the things to highlight is when you look at everybody's spending, transportation is one of those unique areas because you can do road work, but it could be road work that's not deemed to be capital. It can be road work that's just ongoing repairs and maintenance. And when it's ongoing repairs and maintenance for road work, it's expensed. But when it's ongoing or if it's ongoing work that has a future benefit on your roads, then it's capitalized. So that top line there for transportation, I just caution everyone in reading that, yes, definitely South Algonquin looks to be more so in the average of the spending there. But I would say it's all going to be dependent in exactly what's making up those expenditures for the other townships and how much repair work was done. The next slide is what we would call expenses by type, and a lot of good information here. You remember me saying a few slides ago, I like to break up your operating expenses going forward to provide more granular information. That's what we see here. So more granular information on exactly what the town is spending their funds on. So first column again being South Algonquin, and remember the legend would be flipped. So when we're looking at amortization, so on the lower end compared to the other municipalities. So again, that would be relating to timing of when the capital expenditures would be made. Contracted services, for the most part, if you look across, seems very, very comparable. External transfers is all going to depend on, how much they would be, how much spending is happening with, external services, policing and such. Materials. So remember how I said on the previous slide, transportation is likely going to flow based on what they're spending on roads. That's what you're seeing with that green line. If you remember from the previous slide, a lot of the municipalities would have had larger transportation costs, meaning that they were spending additional materials on their roads. And then for the most part, salaries, benefits, and wages are almost they're very comparable across the comparators for the year. This is always an interesting slide that I like to show. So what happens here is we take the number of households in the township and take a look at what taxation revenue is. So this slide is taxation revenue by household. So if we would have had an average line here, I think it looks fairly evident that from a taxation per household figure, South Algonquin would be on the lower end of the range when talking about the taxation levies. It also it ties into the next slide. So I like to talk about the two of them in combination. So taxation as a percentage of the assessed values of the home. So you can see from this perspective, South Algonquin, if we were to put an average, we have some that are down, some that are up. So would be more so at the average level for taxation as an assessed value of the homes. So these are just, I always like these two slides, because they're pretty easy to calculate if you have the financial information available. They're always one that we include in our slides here when we're going through our council presentations, because I think it provides some context for the decisions that you are trying to make as council. And I know there's always sensitivities with respect to increasing taxation levels. And then the only other one to note, and why I like to include this is debt per household. So you'll remember a few slides ago, we were speaking about how South Algonquin has been able to finance capital purchases without needing to take on additional debt. So there's been grant funding and operating surpluses to fund those capital. The reality is, if you need significant capital work, it needs to come from somewhere. And if you don't have it within the municipality, you need to borrow. We've been commenting over the last kind of 2 months or so, what will this slide look like in 2 or 3 years? With everything that's changing right now with COVID, all of the government grants that are going to assist, organizations and companies that are struggling right now. The wonder is if, what's going to happen, and if you will be seeing a more of an increasing trend in debt being taken on. We know we are seeing this more so in the public sector. So with the hospitals, universities, not so much colleges, definitely moving towards more debt financing for capital, because the government grants just aren't there any longer. So I think that was where I wanted to end off. I know I've went through a lot of information in a very short 45 minutes, so I'm very happy to go over any other questions or clarification that you might like at this time.
Tiffany, Richard Challa here. I have one question, and I guess when I look back over the years at our closure plans, I believe we've been putting in, we started, I believe, with 5,000 and jumped it up to 20,000. And if I heard you correctly, it appears we require an estimate from our on our closure plan from I guess our consultant. Am I correct in saying that?
You are absolutely correct, and that's the information that we would utilize in for purposes of coming up with the obligation. So they give the inputs, and then we work through the mechanics of the calculation from a mathematical perspective to come up with the estimate.
Okay, so in hearing that, considering that both landfill sites, the area one was expanded likely 15 years ago, maybe less, but in the Madawaska site now, so there's a possibility that the closure amount each year will go down.
So I would say this is a one-time decrease at this point in time. So the reason I would say that is kind of twofold. So number one, the capacity expansion. So if we're saying that the landfill is less full, that'll result in a decline in the calculation. The other thing when we worked through the calculations is we noticed that in inflation previously was not included in the estimate, and it should have been. So because these calculations are estimates in the current year, we went through the calculations and appropriately included the inflationary considerations in the calculation. So that's those are the two combined reasons for the decline.
I thank you for that, and also I thank you for the comparisons with the various townships. I find it very interesting and informative. Thanks a lot.
That's great. Thank you.
Councillor Harper here. You got me?
We do, Dave. I actually turned your video off. So if you can just click that bottom corner box again, where the video is.
I don't have a bottom corner box.
If you move your cursor around at the bottom, there should be something over on the side that says start video. The bottom left corner.
Okay, I see it. Yep.
There you are.
There we are. From what I see and what I've heard, we don't have any glaring shortfalls in our municipality. So we're doing quite well at this point in time. Would it be safe to assume that?
Yes, so I'd agree. I think when you look at the net financial asset position of the township, the ability to fund ongoing capital with existing operating dollars, it's a very, very positive sign. And you have a positive general surplus, positive reserves set aside by council. So it's positioned you in a strong position. As it seems right now, to weather any potential storms or funding changes that you might be seeing over the next few months with some of these COVID impacts, I would say for sure.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
If there aren't any other comments from council, excuse me, Tiffany, I thank you very much. And I echo the words of both Councillor Harper and Councillor Shalla, and I know the other councillors as well are very appreciative of the comprehensiveness of your review. And as well, we extend our thank you to the staff for their work, because certainly it's their efforts that have assisted us in making good decisions throughout this time.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a pleasure to serve first year as your auditors. We've enjoyed working with your management team, so we look forward to the upcoming year.
Very good. Thank you.
And Jane, if I could just echo that, I just want to say a big thanks to both Dave and Jen, because Jen worked really hard at getting the RFP out and all of the work that went along with that, and then bringing a new company on board. I think was we were looking to change some of our policies and get some good advice, and Tiffany and her team has been able to give that to us. And I just want to really applaud both Dave and Jen for the work that they've done. I think it was pretty seamless, and here we are, even with COVID happening, doing early May. So thanks to everyone involved, and especially huge applaud to staff. that's it.
Thank you. Okay, so we will now resume the agenda for this council meeting. And we are at item 6, minutes of the previous meetings.
Jane, just before you do that,
Oh,
do we want to give Tiffany and her staff the opportunity to sign off, and then I'll,
Oh, right, okay.
is that okay, Tiffany?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give you a call after
Okay.
to talk about the resolutions.
Okay, that's great. Okay,
Thank
thank you so much, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
So I'll just take a minute to share my to share up the screen again if I can. Is that working for everyone so far?
Yep, looks good.
Okay,
Go ahead.
great. If you could just, can you just scroll it up, or do we have to do it ourselves, Holly? Okay, okay. All right, thank you. So we're on number 6. The adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 4th, 2020. And have a resolution moved by Councillor Collins, seconded by Councillor Bongo. Be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin adopts the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 4th, 2020 as circulated. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, I would put it to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Number 2 in that item is adoption of the minutes of the special council meeting of March 31st, 2020. The resolution moved by Councillor Shala, seconded by Councillor Vermeer. Be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin adopts the minutes of the special council meeting of March 31st, 2020 as circulated. Are there any corrections or on those minutes or comments?
I just have some quick comments.
Go
Just
ahead,
saying
Councillor
that-
Bongo.
Yeah, just that from the public, I received a lot of positive feedback regarding that meeting and the fact that it was live broadcasted. And I think we had 30 to 35 viewers as well. So I thought it was a really big success. And just thank you to staff for putting together this Zoom, the live stream of Zoom. I think this is an improvement over our last remote meeting. So I'm very confident that the public will really enjoy seeing this. Just my one question is, will comments be allowed? I know that we're using YouTube now. I'm not sure if we're going to allow people to leave comments underneath the YouTube video or not.
Okay, so first off, at this point in the meeting, we're just
Gotcha.
the minutes, so it's not really where we should be talking about it. We can talk about it under new business if that's okay. If everyone
100%.
Okay. Thank you, Holly. And so the next item on the agenda, we go to,
I don't
we
think
did-
we voted on those
Oh,
minutes.
okay, sorry. So I would call the vote on these minutes if all in favor.
Yep.
Opposed, it's carried. Okay. All right. So we now move to committee staff and council reports.
Excuse me, Jane, can I interrupt? Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can't hear
can.
you right now, yes?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. The Madawaska Fire Report for April. Looks like it was an uneventful month, really, which is good. And then we are into administrative reports. Holly, I will hand that over to you.
Yeah, so I've just done a summary report at this time, and there's a couple of reports following my report. So I've included in the package the information that CRC continues to push out. I've been putting that on our website or on the social media page when appropriate. The Whitney Recreation Committee has canceled Canada Day celebrations. I also got an email yesterday from Canadian Heritage that the grant that we get for Canada Day has been extended and we can use it into next year. So I'll be, or there's some other options, excuse me. So I'll be bringing to council my recommendation on what we do with that money. Administration. So the MECP/MNRF fire agreement is in the package in the bylaw section for discussion at that time. Brock University is continuing to work on their history collection, and they're trying to make it virtual so that they can maybe be interviewing people while we're doing this COVID isolation. We need to schedule an economic development and admin meeting. So my hope was May 20th. Does council want to take a look at their agenda or their schedules now and see if May 20th at 9 a.m. would be appropriate?
That works for me.
Yeah,
For
I'm
me
good.
too. Yeah.
I'm fine with that too.
Okay, so I'm going to ask that you provide me items if you have this week for that agenda. The main focus will be the things that we had anticipated we were going to do on March 22nd before that meeting was canceled. So that's branding, the private road grant discussion. So I will go back and pull those agendas, but if you have items that you want to include on those, please do so. So the next item on my report is fire protection, and in that Councillor Vermeer has just brought up an item. I wonder if we want to set a committee meeting for June for emergency services.
Sure.
Holly,
Yes, Joe.
I
Yes.
apologize, but I had to run up and have another look at another calendar regarding another appointment. Was that one for May 20th confirmed?
We did, but if you have, do you have a?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. So
Probably
May
we have an
20th at 9 a.m. And then EMS, what could I just take a shot at maybe June 17th?
Perfect.
Yeah, it's
That
good.
for me.
So far, so good.
Sounds good.
And so right now we only have agenda items for EMS, but we'll see, maybe I'll discuss with staff and see if there's a need for another committee meeting. We'll tag it on to that day as well. So the May 20th will be economic development, admin, HR, and then the June will be EMS for sure. And then we'll see what else we need to do. So going back to my report, we do have a resolution to sign off on the financial statements that the auditor just presented. That's in the package. We also have the expenditure revenue tax rate and tax ratio bylaw in the package, so we can discuss at that time. We did purchase the trailer, and that there's a resolution for that. There was also a staff report attached regarding the information that staff's been collecting on COVID. MPAC is providing us a deferral. So I just want to be clear, this is not waiving, it's just giving us a little bit more time. And when you read the report, our March tax deadline is pretty online with what we are traditionally seeing. So staff is not recommending that we defer township bills at this point. There's also a planning report that you have gone through, hopefully giving us our options for what we can do regarding planning. Emergency management, the pandemic response team has been meeting on Friday mornings. We've been kind of changing things as we see fit and updating the pandemic plan when required. One item that has been discussed, and I think I'll open the floor to discuss it again right now, is boat launches. So there's been a lot of discussion about boat launches. I think that the official position from the province was that boat launches attached to marinas were to be closed, and that municipal operated boat launches. Sandra, I can see that you've raised your hand. Did you want me to?
No, I'm trying to turn the camera on. I've had
Okay,
lots
I'll
of
just ignore you for
problems.
now then.
Sorry, I've just found
so
the button.
The the Q&As that the province has put out are indicating that it is up to municipalities. There has been some confusion around our boat launches because many of them are either MOUs or sorry, for those watching, memorandums of understanding or land use permits through the Ministry of Natural Resources. And many of them are also, as most of you know, access points for Algonquin Park. So I have been in touch with both the MNRF and the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks regarding those boat launches. It seems to me like the desire is to, you know, sign them as much as possible, indicate to people that, you know, you should be not forming groups at boat launches, using them in a way that social distancing is permitted. And you know, just generally being courteous. So that's kind of the information that I've got from the two ministries involved. It is ultimately council's decision. So I'll open the floor, and if you have questions for me or you just want to generally discuss it, I'll open the floor to that.
Yes, Holly, Dave Harper. With the park being closed like it is, are our boat launches going to be used for access points anymore? I don't think so.
So there is blue signage. Councillor Vermeer sent me a picture, and as did the park superintendent. There is signage at all of at the Algonquin Park access points that indicate that the park is closed. They are saying that the park is not open to fishing at this time. I think that that's going to change in the next few weeks. But they are saying that they're closed, and they have conservation officers out enforcing the closure at this time.
How does that apply to Gallery Lake when our boat launch is outside and you can go up the water into the park?
So it's
are we just stop at the line?
I would say it would be a similar thing to, I think, what happens all the time, that you're not supposed to be on shore on Gale Erie. I can look into that from John Swick, but their response is that the park is closed. So I think that we have a few situations like that, right? Hay Lake is an access point. So there's ways that people can get off our boat launches into Algonquin Park, and Algonquin Park's response is that they have put up closure signs, and they will put up more closure signs, and that they have conservation officers enforcing that Algonquin Park is closed.
There's not much point in opening, let's say, I'll use Gallery as an example, when you can't go into the park. So what's the point in opening our boat launch ramp? I
don't know if it's the question is that we're not opening it or that we're not closing it, because I think closing it means we need to install some method to prohibit people from using it.
Oh, I thought it was just signage.
Okay.
All right. Richard Chal here. Sorry, I looked at the provincial guidelines, and I never did think that at any time our boat launches were actually closed. What I thought was private marinas were affected, but I never thought public /crown /township or land use permit boat launches were closed. So I think it was sign them whichever way you want, and but they should really remain open, because there are, as indicated here in Holly's report, there are residents that use these, permanent residents, and I believe that may be the case in, I know it's at Hay Lake. Likely Gale Erie has residents across the lake in one spot. So I'd say they're required, and I don't see it as that much. They're not that busy, I guess, and especially if the park isn't open. So I think they should stay open and put the appropriate signage up and go from there.
I agree with you, Richard. My question was, are people allowed to go from our boat launching ramp on Gallery up into Algonquin Park because it's supposedly closed?
I think that's a question for the MNRF, not for us.
Well, whatever. I know there are people inside Algonquin Park on Gallery Lake. There's a cottage up there. Now, whether they're going to come here or not, I don't know. And we have one across on the other side of the trestle that he uses a boat launching ramp,
So I think,
as Richard points out.
I think there's two issues. I think it's my understanding that Algonquin Park is permitting cottagers to use the boat launches and to go to their cottages. I think the day use and the camping is what's closed in Algonquin Park, but I can get that confirmation if you like.
I think we need to sort this out sooner rather than later, because the start of the pickerel is on, well, midnight, not this Saturday or Friday night, Saturday, but the following week. And there's going to be a lot of local people that will want to be in the Madawaska River, and they'll need to access the boat launch to put their boats in. Now, are we going to say that the Upper Madawaska River Provincial Park is also closed? That means that the water outside the front of my property and other people's property, you can't put your boat in. I think it's a very ambiguous statement to say the boat launches are closed. People will run them down the beach if need be to get into that water.
Go for it.
Could I have the floor, please?
Sorry.
It's Councillor Florence speaking. Yeah, Sandra is quite right. Pickerel season opens on May the 16th. Whether there's going to be enough water on the Madawaska River to launch your boat in Madawaska is another question. But I'm of the same understanding as Richard that the boat launches were never closed, so therefore they're open. Well, I'm asking and requesting that the washrooms be opened up at the boat launches for May the 16th. Or prior to May the 16th, I noticed that they're nailed shut, or in some cases there's boards across them. The two I'm referring to is the boat launch at Bark Lake in Lyle Township and the boat launch behind the community hall in Madawaska. And one correction for Holly, you cannot access by water Algonquin Park from Hay Lake. You can go across the lake, but then you still got to go across land. The water doesn't touch your park. Yeah, I think that's it for me on the boat. I'm also requesting at the same time that signs be removed from the beaches and maybe be replaced with a sign advising of social distances. The province seems to be opening up the province progressively, and people are going to use the beaches, whether the sign is there or not, once the water warms up enough to go swimming. But I understand there's a problem with the playground equipment. I get that. Maybe a separate sign for the playground areas. I don't know. I hate seeing those signs there at the beaches that they're closed. Like, we're advising people to exercise. We've been doing this for years and years and years, and now we're saying, no, stay at home. I prefer to let the province tell people stay at home, not us.
So one of the things that I'm planning on working on tomorrow and the next day is reviewing the framework and coming up with our municipal, how we're going to open back up. And I think those outhouses and playground discussions need to be part of that, because I think first and foremost, we need to protect our staff who have to clean those things. And I think that, there's a lot of fear around people coming from places where COVID is prevalent to our area. And I think that we need to be responsible in protecting our staff from those. So if that means keeping those outhouses closed a little bit longer, then I guess that's something that we'll have to work through. And yeah, like I said, I'm hoping to have some type of what steps we're going to take to open back up completed in the next couple of days.
Before you go further, Holly, I've lost my split screen here, so I can't see when people are raising their hands. So can anybody help me find that?
So if you are in the corner, there's a little, if you go up into the right corner, is there a little icon that looks like 9 boxes.
No, I can't. That's what I can't find. I had that before. Sorry.
So what's there right now?
I'm on my iPad, so in the right corner, there's just 3 dots, and when I hit it, there, it doesn't go to screen there. So, anyway, it's working. People are stating who they are and doing their comments, so I'm fine with that.
I think you've turned your camera around there, Jane. We can't see your face anymore.
Oh, really? Well, that's probably good. Okay.
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 Regarding the
ahead.
camera and the pictures, I can see 4 people and that's all.
Yeah, mine's too.
Anyway, just not to get hung up on that. If people just would say, you know, just say your names that I know that you want to speak, then that would be fine.
Oh, Mayor, if I just raised my hand, can you see that?
Yes, I can,
Okay.
Richard.
Okay. Well, as long as you can see, you don't need to.
I guess when you start to speak, I should see your face. So sorry about this conversation in the middle of the meeting, but anyway. Go ahead, Holly.
I was finished.
Oh, okay. We covered everything?
Just,
The rest of the report?
so I guess the way we're going to approach it is basically our public boat launches will be open, and we're just going to monitor the situation. If we run into the situation where they're being crowded with a lot of people and people are really coming close into contact, then we'll have a meeting to reassess. That's sort of the impression I'm getting, correct?
Well, we had discussed also signage about physical distancing at the boat launches. That we would plan to put that up as well.
Right, exactly, yeah. Like the way I look at it is the next 2-3 months will be very interesting to say the least, because the way the virus spreads is by people moving around and people coming into contact. And of course, with this warm weather and us being an outdoor destination, we're going to be really faced with an influx of people. So I guess for us just to monitor the situation and I guess if the cases are going to continue going up, then perhaps maybe the province will step in and put in some more serious travel restrictions or something like that. What are we telling cottagers that have seasonal properties? Are we telling them to stay at home? I'm not sure. I saw in the pandemic team minutes, there was a little bit of discussion about that.
Oh, sorry, I was muting myself. So at this point, I've posted the FOCA information on the website, and we're essentially acknowledging what the province and the feds are saying regarding staying home. Now, I think the premier stood up yesterday and said we can't keep cottagers home forever. So like everything else in this thing, it's changing every day. Mm-hmm. We did have a conversation with our representative from the PEOC the other day, and he asked me things like, you know, what's happening at the liquor store and the grocery store and our public venues. And I said, I think that most of our, I think the grocery store is doing an amazing job with the social distancing methods that they have in place there. So he thought that, it was kind of up to us to try to protect ourselves and acknowledge in our community the protection methods that we can be using. And then we just kind of follow the province's lead as far as what's happening with cottagers. Unless council tells me to do something differently than that, which that's part of this conversation right now.
And the other thing, it's Jane speaking, Premier Ford has indicated that he is reaching out tomorrow to certain destination cottage country mayors to talk to them about the situation. So I think as we all know, it's evolving, the situation, and there might be some more direction after that conference that he's arranging for tomorrow. and I don't know that we would be included in that. I think, you know, compared to some other areas, we certainly do have seasonal residents but certainly not the numbers of some other areas. So there may be outcomes after that meeting. Okay. So Holly, just to comment on the waste management, then there is a resolution for the landfill.
Just before we go away from that, Jane, I just want to reiterate. So right now, the direction that council's giving staff is that we're adding signage to our boat launches. They aren't closed. We're following closely the direction that the province is giving us as far as messaging to cottagers. Is there anything else that council feels from this discussion they have expectations of staff regarding?
No.
Mayor Dumas, Richard here.
Yes.
If I may, I certainly agree with what you just said, because when I reviewed the Premier's information on the site here yesterday, and he's going to have that meeting with, sounds like Maura Muskoka and whatever. So, but we'll likely fall in line. So I would say we wait to prepare our information posting until after that meeting and follow the provincial guidelines.
I agree. And that's what we've been doing, following the federal and provincial guidelines. And he does have a conference call on CBC radio or other methods as well, about 1 o'clock every weekday. So I would expect maybe some, I know that the media will be asking him for comments on that meeting that he will have held on Thursday. So. No.
Are hospitality businesses allowed to host guests in roof accommodations, or is that still off limits?
I haven't heard anything about the accommodations and resorts at this point, and I've been listening pretty well every day. But I may have missed something, but I haven't heard anything on that yet.
It's Sandra here. I've had a couple of calls from residents asking when small campfires are going to be allowed in private homes, or obviously not in the home itself, but in the backyards. And I said I would bring it up at the next council meeting and see how council feels about that.
Well, there's a provincial mandate in place at this time that speaks directly to that. There's no fires.
You can't override that.
No,
I
absolutely.
just received information that Quinte has removed the fire restriction. I don't know how they could do that. Maybe they live outside the Forest Fire Prevention Act. I'm not sure.
It's interesting because I saw on the weekend that Romera had as well, and I wondered about it.
And not all of Ontario is included in the fire ban.
Yeah, but I think it's the far south that's excluded, isn't it? Isn't the line down Hamilton?
Yes, so if I may, the line comes down to Port Severn. That is the end of the restricted fire zone for the province. So everywhere north of there is under a provincial ban. So I mean, South Algonquin is under the provincial ban right now. And so there is no fires allowed.
So Don, do you know how those municipalities, they're just lifting their own?
Yeah, so south of the restricted fire zone, some of the municipalities put on their own bans. So for example, Romera is one. Here in Tay, they don't have one, like we've never put one on, but Romera did. South of Barrie, like Innisfil, those areas did. But they've started to lift them because their thing is that people can go out and have a fire and it's good for their mental health. But unfortunately, north of Port Severn in the restricted fire zone is still under a fire ban. And that won't be lifted until the MNRF lifts it.
I would expect that would be sometime after green up. The bush is extremely dry right now, probably for another 2 weeks. And then as soon as the leaves come out,
Yeah, so
situation.
I get the daily updates from the MNRF as to what the fire ratings are. And right now we're it's in the low to moderate range right now. So it would be difficult for a fire to start, but if one starts, it's going to burn well, is where it's at right now. So honestly, the fire ban is not going to be lifted anytime soon, I would think.
Thank you for that, Don. I will report back to them. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So, Councillor Florent, are you in agreement that we will create a get back to normal strategy and we'll include the outhouses in that? Is that acceptable?
Sure, except that I would hope that they would be open before the pickerel season opens, because people are going to be using the launches, and if either clean up in the washroom or you clean up behind it, I don't think either one is very pleasant. But you know, if we use caution, but like just use common sense for cleaning them out, you know, we use pressure washers, so you don't really have to be that close.
Okay.
I don't think it's a problem right now, but in a week and a half, it could be.
Understood. Okay. So if everyone's happy, we'll move on to the next item, which is waste management. I'm actually going to ask council to defer this resolution. When I wrote my report, I was pretty confident that we were going in the right direction. And Friday afternoon, I got an email from Infrastructure Ontario with some new information. So I'm going to go back to them, and probably I would anticipate that we'll probably have a closed session or maybe a committee meeting to talk about the Lyle landfill land transfer. So I'll just put it out there if you guys could defer that for now.
Okay.
That's acceptable. Thank you.
Sure.
So going forward, Jen's on the line. So if anybody wanted to discuss, is there items in this tax collection COVID report that you have, you can open the floor and I'll do my best, but Jen's available too if you have questions for her.
I thank you for the report. It's very comprehensive. The analysis is excellent, and certainly the information, it's looking very good as far as the you know, the response to the tax bills and the payment of the tax bills. So I don't know if any other members have comments, but certainly the conclusion, I agree. There's no significant property tax collectability issues at this point in time, and that we just continue as we are at this point in time. Any comments from anyone?
Agreed.
I agree.
I just wanted to reiterate, Tiffany had kind of alluded to it in her presentation, but I think council needs to probably recognize that with all this money that's flowing in the province right now, it's very likely that what's going to come of this is more downloading to us, because we know that once this, you know, this stimulus and all of this money that's flowing, when the numbers come down, there's probably going to be some additional tax or some request for us to provide something. So I think we should probably go forward with that in mind. She kind of mentioned that we would be weathering a storm. So I think we'll probably be dealing with that at budget time next year.
I agree with you, Holly. Somebody's got to pay for this. It's
Yeah.
going to be us, our taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a memo from our planner. I don't know if you guys have any questions on that. I think this is another one where things are going to continue to change. We have 2 applications right now. Neither are really pushing us to move forward. So I would say my recommendation would be we give it another week or maybe 2 and see what's happening. And if things are starting to open back up, we can hopefully go forward with a normal public meeting. But if you guys tell me differently, then we can start to plan for one of these options.
Personally,
Holly, that we
go ahead, Richard.
get on them for a period and then move forward after that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's my thoughts.
I agree with that as well. Okay, anything else, Holly?
Holly, maybe somebody that might be sitting at home wondering about theirs, maybe if you tell them exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and Tracy's been in touch with both parties. Okay. She's been, keeping them aware of what's going on. I think in some larger places, I know our neighbors, Madawaska Valley are dealing with some subdivision agreements and that kind of thing. So it's a bit more pressing, the things that we're doing. Not that they're not important, but I don't think that they have the financial impact that some other planning matters would. So she's been in touch with both owners and they're understanding of the situation.
Good. Thank you.
And so then again, the staff report for the landfill, I guess the take home there is just that there is movement, there is some positive direction, but I think we still have a ways to go. But I think we will end up with something something figured out this year that we can include in next year's budget. But I'll continue to update you probably through Waste Management Committee going forward.
Holly?
Yes, Richard.
That, if I may, Joe would have a better idea, but regarding the Lyle landfill site, our township, I don't believe, would have had any input in 1983.
I think the date 1983 is likely the date that the local services board took on the management of that waste disposal site. Prior to that, it was the Ministry of Natural Resources. I think that coincides pretty good with the timing that the local services board was formed.
Sorry, did I put 1983 in the report?
Yeah,
Yes.
I see that here.
So that's the first correspondence that I have in our office regarding this file.
And that likely
But
would
the
have been.
township, our township hasn't been making an effort, is what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah,
We weren't even amalgamated then.
right.
Okay.
I think that sorry, if I could reword that, I would say the discussion regarding this land transfer was happening then, because I have literature on it.
Okay.
This, Holly, Dave here, this art study we're supposed to be doing, who's come up with that? Why do we have to do that?
So the province uses this term due diligence, and in order for them to do a land transfer, they have a number of things that they need to check off. One of them is an environmental assessment. One of them is an archaeological review, generally when there's water involved. And then there's some other things. So I've been working with them over the last, I'm going to say 2 years, to say we have 15 years of annual reports on that site. We know the environmental implications of the landfill. So we've kind of talked them into not requiring environmental, because they need to provide indication both to Aboriginal and to the general public that there is an archaeological remnants there. They're requiring that. So it's a stage one. Essentially, what that is an archaeologist looks at the site, looks at the air photos from their desk, maybe does a site walk around and says that the probability is low. I did talk to them about, how close Bark Lake is, and that's a product of OPG, et cetera. And they acknowledge that, but from their perspective, to demonstrate due diligence, they're saying that we need to do this assessment.
Well, it's going to cost us around maybe up to $10,000 to do a walk around. Is that what I get from this?
No, so the assessment is they're saying between 4,000 and 7,000, and that's really dependent on whether or not we have to purchase air photos and what they find in the first portion. The other portion of those funds are for legal fees. So because the province doesn't lose when they sell property, they don't take on any of the costs associated with property transactions. So that means all the legal fees are on us.
Okay.
Okay, then. Anything else, Holly?
No, that's
Oh, Dave. Okay, so now Dave's report.
Thank you. I'll just start off with health and safety. Staff continues to follow best practices, and we're reviewing guidance as it comes from the province and getting the information out to the guys. We've just received some new material last week. I believe it was 61 recommendations, and we went through and found 9 that were relevant. So that information is with the guys, and it's going very well. Operation of the landfill site seems to be orderly and not really having any issues. Secondly, we've got indication from our training provider that they could carry on with an evaluation on May 14th for the new hire position. So I'm just trying to work through the mechanics of how that would happen. I have a plan to utilize the council chamber for staff, you know, keeping distances, and also incorporating a conference call as part of that, where, you know, Joe's on that committee, you know, call into a conference call, and our other third party as part of that interview committee do the same. Yeah, I'd like to try and put that together for the 14th if possible. Just carrying on, weather's been cool, so I think we'll keep half loads in place until May 15th. We haven't had any requests to open early by anyone. Winter sand sweeping finished in the township on Monday, actually a full day ahead of last year, which I think is just because there was no traffic anywhere. So anyway, that's tidied up and finished. Got indication from Ontario Parks that they were going in to do repair on the Victoria Lake culvert this week. I don't know where that is at the moment, but they were going to do a temporary repair and I suppose replace the culvert at some later date. We had minimal damage from freshet this year. Great year for it to be so light. Just some minor erosion by the roadside. That was it. No roads under or anything. We're getting ready to go out for our first round of grading. It's a little delayed because we have some repairs to do on the grader, and getting parts has become somewhat more complicated than usual. So that the repairs are planned for Friday, and hopefully we'll have the grader out first the next week. The annual shredding operation, we were able to start earlier than usual, just because some landfill sites they usually service aren't operating yet. They finished the Madawaska site on the 28th, and they should be finished the Erie site later this week. We were able to get in a large aluminum bin for the Madawaska site now, because the smaller bins we had were overflowing. So they've got the same size bin now that we have up in Erie. And we took those 2 smaller containers that were in the Madawaska site and put them in the Erie site for cans. A lot of people are starting to bring in cans. So that should serve everybody a little better. We're having trouble with them blowing around in the wind. But they're in place. That you know that the float is in service. Everything is working very well. We've been using it almost every day. And again, just about the parts, we're having some difficulty getting parts and delays. 2 things I'd like to, or just one thing I'd like to quickly add. The well driller was able to get in and finish the well for the fire hall in Whitney. That's complete now, and they got 5 gallons a minute out of it. So in the coming weeks, we'll be looking at those connections. And that wraps up what I have.
How far down did it have to go, Dave?
They went to 300 feet.
300.
Any other questions of Dave? Thank you, Dave, very much. Are there any councillor reports? None? Okay.
Board is sitting at home.
I know. All right, so was there any business, sorry, any business arising from the minutes? That's where I am in my agenda. An unfinished business. So, okay, we're now on to the council, the action items, and I believe there are resolutions for each one of these items, Holly? Yes, I know there are. So I don't know if there is any discussion on these.
Well, we could discuss them as you go through them if you want.
Okay.
Resolution. I think there is. This is just the auditor report that that Tiffany's already gone through. So for those watching online, if anyone's interested in having a look at the actual presentation that the auditor has provided, it's in the May 6th package. It's on the website.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
So Holly, are you going to move us down to the correspondence information items? I know that's a large document to get through.
Sorry, I was muted. So that document I just scanned through was the police service agreement, and it's the 911 agreement, and there's a resolution for that as well. And this is correspondence received for information. So I don't know, we don't generally go through these specifically, but if anyone has any that they would like to speak of.
Number 8, Holly, Dave here. Meals on Wheels, what type of response did Jim get? I know he was calling a lot of people.
I'm not sure, actually, to be honest with you. That was something that I worked with Bill. I don't know if you remember Bill Smith and Joanne King came and presented to council probably 3 years ago now. So they had headed that up, and they did the application to DSAB. And just, I guess, for the public who's watching, they did an application to DSAB to get some funding. And the hope is that program will go ahead even after COVID. So it's a program that we're starting now, but I can double check with them and see if they had people sign up or what the status of that is.
I know Jim called here and wanted us to go on the list. We had to decline. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's still, as you say, Holly, a work in progress. Sorry, someone was speaking.
Yes, Mayor Dumas.
Yes.
Sorry I had my hand up. I'm not sure whether you've seen it or not, but anyway, I apologize. But I'm just wondering if, I'm thinking that should be included in the newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
It's going out. It sounds, I read some information here where we're going to have a newsletter going out in May. And if we could put something in regarding the Meals on Wheels, it should get to everybody's kitchen table.
Yeah, and that was part of, I think what I was trying to do with the newsletter as much as possible is collect all the good things that are happening, because I think everybody could use a good newsletter. So if anybody has any other positive things that are happening, if you can get them to staff, and we'll try to make that that next newsletter is going to be as much as possible promoting services. So maybe Meals on Wheels, the food banks, all of the things that we know are available to us, as well as some of the things that we're trying to do as staff, just to promote healthy living through this COVID crisis.
Thanks, Holly.
All right, thank you. All right, so I think we will leave this and go to new business. I don't know if there's any new business. I know we had requests from Councillor Vermeer and Councillor Bongo, and I think that those would be covered by the meetings that we have arranged. Is there any other new business? All right, seeing none, we will then go to, you have to get through that package, Holly. Go to motions of council.
I'm getting there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. So we'll begin with the motions of council, and let me see. So the first one is Yeah, we got the first one up, Holly.
Um,
Oh, these are the bylaws. Okay, so I will go through the motions that are in the agenda then, the motions of council. So the first one, if you have your agenda up, you would be on the item 13 on the agenda for the council members. Okay. 13.
okay.
Great, thank you, Holly. So
Sorry.
the first, okay, so I'll proceed. The first, I have this motion moved by Councillor Vermeer, seconded by Councillor Collins. Be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin authorizes the CAO, clerk treasurer, and the mayor to accept and sign the 2019 financial audit as presented on May 6, 2020. All in favor? Since I can't see you, I'm going to ask if there was anyone opposed. So the resolution is passed. The next resolution, moved by Councillor Shallis, seconded by Councillor Florent. Be it resolved that the Council for the Township of South Algonquin directs staff to transfer $10,000. Oh, that's the one we want to hold, Holly, right? Okay, sorry, we will delete that resolution at this point in time. So we'll go to the next one. Moved by Councillor Florence, seconded by Councillor Harper. Be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin approves the purchase of a new triaxle float for the Works Department, and that a reserve transfer to fund the purchase be made in the amount of $38,242.61 from Transport Equipment Reserve 13-3000-3000 to Transportation Service Budget Line 15-9000-0202. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next resolution moved by Councillor Shala, seconded by Councillor Bongo. Be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin agrees to participate in the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks Litter Cleanup Day during the Waste Reduction Week, which takes place in October 19th to the 25th, 2020. Any discussion?
Yes. The timing of this just demonstrates to me that Toronto doesn't have any knowledge of the workings in Northern Ontario at all. The last 2 days of litter pickup week, the 24th and 25th, is the opening days of the moose rifle season. If we were going to participate in litter cleanup week, I would ask that we change the dates to end on the 23rd instead of the 25th, which eliminates the Saturday and Sunday, the only Saturday and Sunday that's included in there, because I think we would be putting people at risk if they're out on the side of the road bending over and picking up garbage in the open moose season.
That's a good point, and I think we can choose our days that we want to do it, Joe, and certainly your recommendation would be considered for that, and we could maybe put this on our one of our committee meetings just to look at the days and set the days for our area.
I would like to insist that that be done right now, or I'm going to have to ask for a recorded vote and vote against the whole thing.
So could we just defer the motion? There's no emergency for us to, we could just not vote on it today and come up with a local solution. Just to add to that, I did respond to MECP and let them know that that it is moose season in this part of the province, and their response was that they thanked us for that information and that they would include it in the safety bulletins that they'll be putting out for this event. So they did acknowledge it, and but we can definitely defer it to, we have a waste, or yeah, we're probably going to need a waste committee meeting in June, so we can defer it to then if you like.
I would prefer, oh, that's agreeable, Councillor Florent. Okay, we'll defer that to our next waste management meeting then. Okay. The next resolution, which one is this one? Tax ratio. I have this moved by Councillor Florence, seconded by Councillor Harper. And it's being a bylaw, where did that one go? Being a bylaw to adopt tax ratios for the year 2020 as referred by the Committee of the Whole of Council. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, where am I? I lost my place. This is a bylaw.
Right. So the next resolution that you should be reading is the Declaration of Emergency Preparedness.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't turn my page over. Okay, thank you. So, thank you. So the resolution is, be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin declare the week of May 3rd to 9 as Emergency Preparedness Week, and that staff use the opportunity to advertise emergency information both pertinent to both our local emergency management plan and from various provincial ministries. Any discussion? All in favor?
I'd just like to note that that is this week and it's half over already.
That's true, isn't it? Okay, thank you. Anyway, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. I don't have any notice of motions. So now we're into bylaws. And I'm sorry, I'm working from the screen and from my paper, so I have first and second reading moved by Councillor Collins, seconded by Councillor Florent, being a bylaw to adopt the expenditure and revenue estimates for the year 2020. Also, the amount required to be raised through taxation to cover the opening and capital costs of the municipality, and that it be read a first and second time and be referred to the Committee of Whole Council. All in favor? Opposed? We go to the next, the third reading, moved by Councillor Harper, seconded by Councillor Bongo. Being a bylaw to adopt the expenditure and revenue estimates for the year 2020. Also, the amount required to be raised through taxation to cover the operating and capital costs of the municipality as referred by the Committee of the Whole of Council, and that it be read a third time and passed and numbered 20-613. And that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CAO clerk treasurer, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be entered into the bylaw book. Are there any discussions on this? Hearing none, I would call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. The next bylaw is regarding the tax rates. First and second reading moved by Councillor Shala, seconded by Councillor Vermeer, being a bylaw to adopt tax rates for the year 2020, and that they be read a first and second time and be referred to a Committee of the Whole of Council. All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. The third reading, moved by Councillor Florence, seconded by Councillor Harper. I have to get the right page. Being a bylaw to adopt tax rates for the year 2020 as referred by the Committee of the Whole of Council, and that it be read a third time and passed and number 20-614, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CAO clerk treasurer, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be entered into the bylaw book. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. The next one is in regards to the tax ratios. Is that correct? Did I just do that one? Sorry. Okay. Holly, connect me here. Where am I? The tax ratios. Okay. Okay, this is the next one. Moved by Councillor Bongo, seconded by Councillor Collins. I still don't feel like I'm in the right place. I'm sorry. This is.
I think we need an explanation of what's the difference between tax rates and tax ratios.
I just need I need to get connected here. So Holly, I'm doing tax ratios now, right? Okay.
Holly, you're muted.
Yeah, you're doing tax ratios, Jane. Yes.
Thank you. I will go ahead.
You're on the right page.
Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted. So the tax rate is the residential rate that we've set based on the discussion and the presentation that I gave at the last meeting. And the ratio is the difference between the residential rate and the commercial, industrial, and all of those other tax classes.
Okay. All right. So I will do the bylaw for tax ratios, moved by Councillor Bongo, seconded by Councillor Collins, being a bylaw to adopt tax ratios for the year 2020, and that it be read a first and second time and be referred to a committee of the whole of council. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That part is carried. The third reading, moved by Councillor Vermeer, seconded by Councillor Shala, being a bylaw to adopt tax ratios for the year 2020 as referred by the committee of the whole of council, and that it be read a third time and passed and numbered 20-615, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor, the CAO, clerk treasurer, and sealed with the seal of the corporation and be entered into the bylaw book. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay, so the next one is the agreement with the Ontario Provincial Police 911 PPSAP. I have it moved by Councillor Florence, seconded by Councillor Harper, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of the agreement of the provision of 911 primary public safety answering point PPSAP services, and that it be read a first and second time and be referred to a committee of the whole of council. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Third reading. Moved by Councillor Collins, seconded by Councillor Vermeer, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of the agreement for the provision of 911 primary public safety answering point PPSAP services as referred by the committee of the whole council, and that it be read a third time and passed and numbered 20-616, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CAO clerk treasurer, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be entered into the bylaw book. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. The next is the appointment of fire chief. Moved by Councillor Collins, seconded by Councillor Florent, being a bylaw to provide the appointment of fire chiefs for the township of South Algonquin, and that it be read a first and second time and be referred to the committee of the whole of council. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Third reading, moved by Councillor Harper, seconded by Councillor Vermeer, being a bylaw to provide for the appointment of fire chiefs for the township of South Algonquin as referred by the committee of the whole council, and that it be read a third time and passed and number 20-617, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CAO clerk treasurer, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be entered into the bylaw book. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. The next is the MNRF agreement. First and second reading, moved by Councillor Harper, seconded by Councillor Bongo, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a fire protection agreement with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry for fire protection services to the structures outlined in the agreement within Algonquin Park, and that it be read a first and second time and referred to the committee of the whole council. All in favor?
I'm opposed.
Pardon?
I'm opposed.
Okay. Any other opposition?
Not an opposition.
You're only at the first reading, aren't you?
Yeah, but we still vote on it.
Okay.
We do the first.
Can I ask, sorry, it's Sandra here. Can I ask whether or not the revenue has changed, whether or not that's been upped or it's the same as the original agreement?
It's the same.
It's the same, yes. It's the same.
Thank you.
So I will call that vote again just for clarification. So all in favor? Opposed?
I am.
Councillor Florent?
Yes.
It's carried. The third reading, moved by Councillor Vermeer, seconded by Councillor Shala, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a fire protection agreement with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry for fire protection services to the structures outlined in the agreement within Algonquin Park as referred by the Committee of the Whole of Council, and that it be read a third time and passed in number 20-618, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor, CAO, clerk treasurer, sealed with the seal of the corporation, be entered into the bylaw book. Discussion?
Can I address my reason for voting no?
Yes, Councillor Florent.
I think I've voted no against this agreement every time it comes up for renewal, and I argued against it initially as well. At a time when we're expressly addressing concerns about safety and danger to our employees, this agreement exponentially increases the risk to all of our firefighters needlessly. I understand they have to respond to fires within the Township of South Algonquin. There's no need to sign this agreement.
Thank you very much for that input. Anyone else?
Mayor Dumas, should this be Ministry of Environment rather than MNRF?
So the bylaw itself says the Ministry of Conservation, Environment and Parks and the Ministry of Natural Resources, because the Ministry of Natural Resources still manages the facilities at Opeongo.
Okay, well then it should say both then.
It does.
The bylaw does.
If you look at the bylaw, the both are noted there, Councillor Shala.
If you look at the screen, Councillor Shala,
Okay.
it says being a bylaw to authorize the fire suppression agreement between Township of South Algonquin and the Ministry of Conservation, Environment and Parks and the Ministry of Natural Resources. We can amend the resolution if you like.
But shouldn't what we're voting on, shouldn't it state then with the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Ministry of Environment?
We can amend that if you like. Yep.
Well,
It does, doesn't
then
it?
they're both the same.
Okay.
Yes, that's fine. We can do that. So we will amend the bylaw to include the Ministry of Conservation, Environment and Parks.
The resolution.
I've got a question regarding this.
Go ahead, Councillor Vermeer.
I'm just curious because I'm new to this agreement here. Where does the term 5 years, where does that originate from? And the monetary issue of $20,000, like who sets that rate? Like, is that a provincial rate? Where does that rate come from? Anybody?
Holly, did you want to address that?
I mean, that is what, that's it. That's a standing agreement, if you will. It's what was done the last time. It's essentially the standby value that we get. I guess if council feels that we need to have more than that, we can take that back to them.
Well, I just think that if you have an agreement over the term of 5 years, that maybe there should be an escalating value to this, or maybe we should explore that. I would just like to know where this figure came from, this $20,000. Like, how did this get stamped out? And, you know, it's obviously not written in stone. So I'm just curious as to why we just say 20 grand. And I was reading through some of the agreement of the reciprocal responsibilities of the MNRF and the MECP, that they're going to provide training. And I don't have it in front of me because I can't whip the screen down, but have we ever taken them up on the other half of their agreement?
Yes.
Has there been any benefit for us beyond the monetary?
Could I comment, Mayor?
Yes.
I believe the initial year there was a $5,000 training fee for the first year of this, and why I personally supported this, when I looked at our budget and I looked at fire over a period, and we were talking about replacing and upgrading our equipment, we never had this agreement. And then when the 20,000 looked pretty attractive, considering we want to upgrade equipment, and where are we going to get the money? So if we just had a standby agreement, we never had to show up at all. We got $20,000 that we could put, and the idea was that it be put towards a reserve for purchasing fire equipment throughout the township. And basically, if you look at a $200,000 truck, would take you 10 years. And if you didn't have a fire to go to, when you go to the fire, you're going to get paid provincial amount. But if you didn't have to go to a fire over 10 years, basically you could get a truck or a piece of equipment for the fireman at basically no cost. So I know there's some risks, as Councillor Florent mentioned, but that's why I supported it initially, and I would continue to support it, because if we don't have to go, like I said, it's $20,000 in our pocket.
Can I interject there, please? I think quite rightly, as Councillor Vermeer said, this agreement is 5 years old. Costs and things have gone up since then. I think we should review the amount of money.
I agree.
Oh, I would agree that the more we can get, the merrier, but I'm just talking about how it initially got rolling.
Mhm. What does our fire chief think?
So thank you for asking. So the $20,000 a year is just basically, that's $20,000 a year for our guys to be on standby. If we actually were to respond to a fire in the park at one of the listed structures in the agreement, we would actually bill them per hour, per truck for our services rendered. So the $20,000 is basically just $20,000 to us to be ready to respond to the park. If we actually respond to the park, then we can actually bill them on top of the $20,000 a year that we get.
That's correct.
Mhm.
And
So
that
are
is
you-
laid out, I'm sorry, that is laid out in the agreement, section 7, subclause B, I think it is. And it's
So
the-
Don,
the-
am I hearing you say that you're comfortable and happy with the $20,000 stipend that's put in the agreement?
That's correct, because I mean, basically, they're gonna give us $20,000 a year for the next 5 years to do nothing if we never get a call in there.
Okay.
And if we do get a call, I know in the past, I mean, my understanding over the past 5 years, there's been exactly 5 calls into the park. And we didn't bill them for it, which should have been done.
Oh, okay.
So if we do get a call into the park for a fire, we can charge them, or we can bill them, and we get the current MTO rates,
And this,
and it's charged per hour per apparatus.
this billing will take place regardless if we're called off or not. It's just the response we're billing for then?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It's the same way as if anytime we get called to a car accident on any of the highways, we bill the MTO. So it's the same rate.
Great. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
So I just want to clarify that this agreement does not cover calls to car accidents or fires on Highway 60. So that is covered by the MTO. This is specific to those facilities that are within the contract. So there's I believe the staff house at Two Rivers. There's a number of staff houses and I think a kitchen at Opeongo. So it's very specific buildings within Algonquin Park. It's not the campgrounds. So if you recall, some of you might recall, there was a RV that burned at Two Rivers a couple years ago. That's not part of this contract, and that's not something that we respond to. So it's very specific, and it's not traffic accidents.
Any other questions? So I would call the vote then. Those in favor? Opposed?
I'm opposed.
It's carried. Thank you. So that is the end of motions and bylaws. We do not have to go into closed session. I've lost my agenda. So then we have payment of accounts at this point in time. Okay, there we are. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Florence, seconded by Councillor Bongo. Be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin authorizes the payment of all bills as recorded for the meeting of May 6, 2020 2020-000016 for $260,687.94. Batch 2020-000018 for $4,822.28. Batch 2020-00020 for $130,207.99. Batch 2020-00022 for $72,556.31. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Item 18 is adjournment.
But Jane, if I could just,
Oh, sorry.
so my apologies. Councillor Bongo brought up at the beginning of the meeting in the minute section whether or not we were going to interact with the YouTube video, and I deferred it to hoping that we would talk under new business, and then I forgot about it until right now. So that would be the point where we should have talked about it, just for your information, under new business. So I would just say our procedural bylaw right now only allows for people to interact with council outside of a council meeting or during that first part, which is delegations and presentations. So my recommendation to the public is, if at any time you have a question or a concern or something you want to raise to council, that's your venue to do it. And I think that in this, we've done it today with the auditor, and we can see that it worked very well. So if people want to present to council or provide questions or whatever, they can either do it prior to the package being done, which is 7 days before the council meeting, or in that petition and delegation section. They're welcome to call myself or any member of council anytime, not during a council meeting, but that's the way the procedural works at this time. And we won't be going back to that question and answer period on the YouTube video. So I hope that clarifies it for everyone. And if you have any questions about that, give me a call.
Thank you, Holly. I appreciate that. So I would move that the resolution is moved by Councillor Harper, seconded by Councillor Shala. Be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the Township of South Algonquin adjourns the regular meeting of May 6, 2020 at whatever time it is. I have 11:10.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Holly.
You're muted again.
Well, you read my lips. I said thank you. I think that was very successful. Take care.
I enjoyed it. Take care,
Have a
everybody.
good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a safe-
Bye-bye.